And with that, we will also share the screen here. Please feel free to chime in with questions at any time. And we're glad to make it into a discussion rather than a presentation. But I thought we will just proceed more or less in order through our topics this evening, as will be shown here in a moment on our slideshow. Just putting my little list of participants off to the side here. Hopefully this screen will share all right. Put things in the corner here. And here we are, mentor discussion for season and registration, September 14th. I think I'm going to make Paul a co-host here. And if you might help just let people in, because when I'm presenting, it's hard to see who's coming in. Is that okay, sure. Paul?
Yep.
And we'll go to our season overview. So one notable feature of our season, which was not notable in previous seasons, was our return to two-day events. Last year, as everyone knows, we went to one-day events, and that was due to conditions prevalent at the time. And current conditions suggest that we're anticipating normal seating capacities and two-day events for our FRC season this year. Another feature of this season, responding to changes in the United States, is that our season is now 5 weeks plus the provincials. And that gives us 1 extra week before Houston. As everyone knows, there was quite a turnaround last year to head to the World Championships. Only a very few days between the end of provincials and the start of Houston World Championships. So one side effect of this is there's a slightly more condensed schedule for your team's event choices this year. We have a total of 5 weeks of competition rather than a total of 6 weeks of competition. Anyone interested in COVID measures, well, they're updated on the website and you may refer to them there. So that's our season overview. We will now look at our season overview in terms of costs, and these have already been announced and posted on both the headquarters website, firstinspires.org, and the firstroboticscanada.org, from which we copied and pasted this information today. And you will note that First Robotics Canada has arranged for this year a grant of $800 towards the registration fee, which amounts for a veteran team to $8,000 and for a rookie team, $6,500 due to our $2,000 grant for rookie teams. Rookie teams are also able to apply for a $4,000 US grant. Apply now, that's a interesting point in bold, and please contact Paul or contact me if you would like some assistance with that. There are additional grants for second-year teams. You can also look into those. A common question that we get is, why does my dashboard not show the amount of money that has already been applied towards our team? And that's because the Canadian site or Canadian Gmail drive or G drive holds the records of our financial situation for each team. And so you'll get a standard readout on the American site through the dashboard. So if you have an amount of money that was applied towards your team from the previous year and you're not sure about it, please contact me and I'll be glad to confirm what is your team's amount carrying forward from a previous season. So that's the season overview. At the moment, I'm not seeing any hands. I'm just going to go to the chat just in case. Oh yeah, Lisa is here. She's a member of the COVID task force. Please feel free to ask her questions, anything about COVID. And also the change in fees simply reflects a raising of the fees in the American realm, or from the American side, they raised our fees by $1,000 US, and there's our response to it. So that was unsharing the screen. We share back here. Just checking the chat one more time. And please feel free to put up your hand or ask a question. The Ontario Champs has not been decided. That's under review. But as you may note, there was a careful review of the new fees for this year and deliberation on the part of First Canada to arrive at the $800 grant from First Canada. And a similar process is underway for the fees for the provincial championships. And as soon as we have that, we will announce it. So that's underway at the moment. And guesstimate of the range, I think you could probably estimate or guesstimate similar percentage of increase. And there, John has just let me know it will be about 3,750. That's approximate. And that's not official yet because it's still under deliberation. Are there any plans to get rid of masking requirements? I'm sure many people will be asking about that. The current COVID framework has been written flexibly. And so at the moment, we're assuming that there will be masking at each of our events. However, the COVID task force is free to respond to conditions as the season unfolds and make adjustments. Just like last year, we adjusted the maximum number of participants in a particular competition from each team. We increased it throughout the season. So hopefully that will help us for our planning. We are striving to keep the fees as similar or same even possible from year to year. It's just our response in First Canada to the changing prices from the United States, and we're doing what we can to keep everything as stable as possible. So the current projected cost of the district champs is approximately what has been in the previous 5 years, just for everyone's reference. So again, I'm not seeing if there are any hands. Just going to go to our list of participants, and someone can just let me know if someone has their hand up. I'm just going to keep that part closed just to keep my display clear. So we come to a highlighted slide here. Important, early team registration is extremely helpful. It's a very complex process negotiating through the province of Ontario, moving around the hockey schedules and the playoffs in particular, and finding a suitable venue with the right cost, the right amount of seating, and the right space to host an FRC event. And despite all of that, we have currently 9 secured venues. The question being, do we need 10? Do we need 12? That all depends on accurate projection of numbers. And we are projecting nearly double what we had forecast last year as to the number of teams participating. So that's a really great start to the year. And the exact number of teams will dictate how many venues we need. So at the moment we have 9, we're working on a 10th, and we really wish to avoid event cancellations. We went through a lot of process last year with several of our venues, and we're forced to cancel before the season just due to our lower numbers. Okay, so if you would like to participate in this year's event selection process, you need to check your dashboard. And I'm sure most of you may have done this already, but just in case, you need to make sure you've done your consent and release, your youth protection program screening, and leaving a few business days just in case, because it requires you to know some banking information from your own bank accounts. And 2 adults are required to do this for the youth protection program. We're encouraging you to find 2 adults from your team to do this. And your team roster, if you complete all of that early, then you don't have to worry about it later in the season. So I'm going to ask Paul to just share a little bit with us about why is registration important, Paul?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is, if you're not event ready, we call this being event ready. If you don't have 2 lead mentors that have their YVP done and sign the consent and releases, you're not going to be able to pick your event on the 22nd of September when that opens up. It opens up for a week, and then the next one is about a week after that for your second event. So that could be an issue. You may not get the one you want. The other reason most teams don't know about is that you can't actually add anybody to your roster until you have all your consent and releases done for the 2 adult lead mentors and the YPP done. And why this is important is often I'll get an email or a call from Artie Javeri, who will say, you know, I have a sponsor that says they want to provide funds for a team. And she'll say, oh, for example, I've been asked in the past, a team that has like a lot of girls on the team, a lot of female representative. And so I'll say, okay, and I'll know some, but I don't know every team and I don't know every team situation. So I'll say, well, I'm going to go and check in the rosters, and that's how sometimes teams will get extra funds. So you need to consider that might be an issue. So hopefully that's clear. It's not the only reason why you'd want to do that. There are reasons why we would want to have that team. Kids on teams want to be able to say, yeah, I was on that team. And sometimes they'll ask us for information and we can't verify that they're on the team if they're not in the roster. So we can see who's in the roster. We just can't see any personal information or emails and things like that. So I hope that helps a little bit. I wanted to ask John, since he's the one that usually deals with the venues currently, what issues that you have with planning the number of events based on the teams that we have.
Hey, Paul, thanks for asking that question. And hello, mentors, everyone that's on the call. It's good to see you virtually. I certainly look forward to the opportunity to meet face-to-face with you at the tournaments coming up, not to mention the 2 off-season events that are just around the corner. So the crunch time for us in terms of planning at the high level is that, as stated earlier, how many venues do we need? And venues, if you were to create a formula, it's the number of teams times 2 divided by the capacity of the venues tells us how many venues we need. So right now, if I was to go into the system, and Paul, I think today we noticed that even though there were a larger number of teams in the system, only I think 60 plus teams had the green button lit up, which meant all the requirements were done to be able to select an event. So let's just say tomorrow was September 22nd when the first event selection is. Those teams that don't have a green button will not be able to select their event. So they will lose priority opportunities on event selection. The other piece, or the bigger issue that I have with this, or we all have actually, is the simple fact that we are almost guessing at how many venues we need. In theory, we should have already had all the venues ironed out, whether it was 10 or 12 or 9. And so currently sitting at 9 feels pretty good, but that's guessing we have 140 teams. But even 9's not enough for 140 teams. So if we only have 60, showing up as green right now, it becomes a real conundrum for us to decide how many venues. We certainly don't want too few, and we certainly don't want too many. We all know what that experience was like last year. So we're trying our best to get it right. And when you get the information through the blast, you have these mentor meetings, or you get the phone call or emails from Paul and some of the other first senior mentors about, you need to get this done. You really have to pay attention to it, because we scramble the night before event selection, trying to remind mentors that you're not going to be able to pick the event unless you have the green button. And the green button, you have to do everything that Paul Keenan says to be able to make that choice. And back over to you, William. And I'm hoping that we'll get some questions here.
And thank you, Paul. And we've seen some questions being answered on the chat here. Sorry about that, just hit escape too many times. Try that again. Now, the event registration process, there is a 1-week window to register, and that's great because there was a time in the past where there was a mad rush at noon when everyone was trying to sign up for the very few spaces in the choice events. And so to address that, we have a flipped lottery system. So like this, at random, the teams that have made their selection within the first 1-week window will be given priority in a certain order. Say there were 8 teams, Well, the first team would get the first choice and so on down to the 8th team. Then in the second round of selections, let's assume there were 8 teams, then the 8th team from the first round would get the first choice in the second round. So it's not unlike the alliance selection in the playoffs of FRC tournaments. And this allows us to maximize the chance of sharing around the opportunity to select your events. And I'm sure there will be some special opportunities to have individual discussions. For example, if teams are very far away or have very extenuating circumstances, but this is how we select our events. So there's no need to register exactly when selection opens, simply to make your selection for the first event in the week of September 22nd to 29th, that's Thursday to Thursday. And I believe that's from noon to noon. And then the second event, October 6th to 13th, and similarly noon to noon. And once we've done that, we'll have a great idea as to where everyone will be. And hopefully everyone will get at least one and hopefully 2 of their best choices for the events. That's the registration process. And that, given that, let's just take a look here at our current list of events. You'll note Newmarket being a new venue this year, very new. Only a few weeks ago, we were doing a walkthrough. It's a great facility just north of the GTA. It's not all that far from the 400 and 401 or from the 404 and 401. And it's also on the same weekend as Georgian, which is a little further north. That's about an hour north of Toronto. Then we have the March break on week 2. Even so, there is a potential 10th event going into week 2. We're in negotiations with another great venue, not so far from the center of Ontario population-wise, which is the GTA. Then we have on week 3, Western and Humber, March 17th to 19th. Waterloo 1 and 2 will go between the 23rd and the 27th. We're having a double event at Waterloo, just like last year, except that each of these events is a 2-day event. So 4 consecutive days, or 5 consecutive days, 2 consecutive events, put it that way, of 3 days each. So we'll kind of mirror what we did last year with a load in on the final evening of Waterloo 1 for the teams of Waterloo 2. And then on the same weekend, we have North Bay on the 24th to the 26th of March. Moving along to the end of March and the beginning of April, McMaster and Windsor are on week 5. Provincials, the location TBA, it will be announced very soon. I'm sure we're getting very close to an official announcement, and that's April 5th to 8th. And of course, this shortened 5-week competition season, followed by the provincials, allows us 1 week to catch our breath before the World Championships in Houston, the 19th to the 22nd of April. And wouldn't it be grand to have a number of Ontario teams featuring on Einstein Field? Who knows? Let's figure out a way to do that as Team Ontario. I'm not sure if John has any further comments about this at this time, as he's been working furiously with the venues, and updates are coming almost daily. And if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. So,
William,
yeah.
Well, thank you for that opportunity to add a little bit. I'm sure this question is going to come forward, and I really want the community to know how much First Canada is transparent and offers up information as soon as we have it. So I'm going to inform the audience or the community about the provincial championships. Is not 100% confirmed yet, the location, but it would be 98% confirmed to be in Hamilton. Hamilton at the First Ontario Centre, or the Cops Coliseum as it used to be. We just have to iron out a few details, but that is where it looks like it's going to be. And you will see something within the next week or two as far as that being posted as the actual venue going forward. So we're very excited about this new venue. It's very big, as you can imagine. It's an NHL size arena, which offers an enormous amount of opportunities to experience First at its best.
So thank you very much, John. That is an exciting announcement indeed. It's a great venue and has a great feel to it, and I'm sure it will work well with our provincial championships. So that brings us to the off-season events. And the Stemley Cup is at the end of October, and that will be at St. Mary's School in Hamilton, hosted by 4039 Makeshift and 5406 Celtics. And that promises to be an amazing event. And then we have the Windsor or Southwest International. I just kind of mixed the name up there. It's actually the Southwest International in Windsor. And it's on November 5th, Saturday, November 5th. And those are two off-season events. You may find the websites. I can put them in the chat here if you would like, stemleycup.ca, and then there's a slightly lengthier link to the Windsor International website. And you may sign up there if you haven't already. I know that Stemley is getting fairly full as far as I've heard. And that's our off-season events. As we also, this should be a good place to also mention, you may have seen in the program update, we have the 2056 Ways to Inspire coming up very soon, and more details will be coming in our program updates about the exact topics that will be covered in that conference in early October. And then later on in the fall, we usually have our SWAT-posium. And so keep tuned or stay tuned to the program updates, and that will help you to plan for these conferences. I know my team always benefited very strongly from these conferences that were held throughout the province. If you would like to have another mentor with a name on the program update list, please feel free to just personal chat me the email address, and I'll copy and paste them into my mailing program to update that. Sometimes there are mentors who are not getting the updates, and this is a great opportunity for anyone here to just add an email address if there's a mentor you know you would like to add to that update list, and I'll just grab it off the chat. All right, that's our 2022 off-season events. Team support, and there are different means that we're using to support the teams this year. We're playing around with the idea of office hours. So far, I've just been available more or less during the day. I tend to look at my phone anytime from 8 o'clock on to approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and thereafter sometimes in the evening, depending on what's happening. So that's my tendency. Those have been my office hours so far. I was thinking of taking a little chat poll about any preferences for office hours, and you can just chat my name in the poll if there's a preferred time that you would either like to have available as office hours, or for that matter, for mentor sessions. My availability for mentor sessions is well, I've been attempting to line it up with teachers' schedules, so anytime after 3, I would guess. And last year, we just tried to guess the best times. 7 or 8 o'clock was the typical time that we started our sessions. I'm happy to start them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever is convenient for anyone, but particularly on a few days of the week, as I do tend to be scheduled up on other days of the week. So I'm open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at the moment, flexible for other days, but I have a strong preference for those, just because of other requirements and responsibilities. So if you have a preference for office hours and or mentor session times, please just chat me some of those preferred times, and I'll compile those as well and come up with the optimum time for us to hold our mentor network or mentor sessions and or our office hours. So one way is just office hours, and I tend to answer my phone where possible. If I don't answer, I'll call you right back as soon as my meeting's done, for example. We also have other ways that we are working on. We are working with 4 teams that act as hubs, and they were much more active before the pandemic, and now we're starting to come back online a little bit more. And we've had conversations with 1241 Theory 6, which is in the Mississauga area. And they're really happy to help teams make parts, especially for EveryBot builds, which are a new feature of our jurisdiction. We did about 11 EveryBots last year, and it was really interesting to see them evolve throughout the season. And several teams brought their everybots to the World Championships. So that was a great turnout. We have 772 in Windsor acting as a hub team, supporting teams in Southwestern Ontario. 1114, the virtual hub, sort of call-in office hours are available from team 1114, and 1305 up in North Bay. And we will have some more mentor or updates about the details of the hubs going forward. And in addition, our MAC, our Mobile Alumni Crew, this is meant to be a set of first mentors and or alumni that are mobile, either virtually mobile or actually physically mobile. And we have a set of robots that we're able to even bring to teams to help support them understanding the electrical system, doing coding workshops and the like. And so we have these robots at our Studica location, and we're very happy to bring them around to different teams to offer actual workshops in person, or depending on the topic, in a virtual sort of setting. We have a mentor network, and that's from our first dashboard. If you're a mentor of the team, you can go into your dashboard, and we are hoping to make use of this, that our mentors will sign up through the mentor network and offer support to teams. And then we have a set of mentor sessions. So far, we've been focusing most of our time on coding, as that has been the greatest demand so far. Though in the summer, we also did some sessions on CAD and team management. So that's our means of team support. And we're also very happy to take feedback and suggestions, as that has driven our curriculum and or plans for mentor sessions and approaches to supporting teams so far. So this might be a good place to check the chat. The chat is rather quiet, and just keep going here.
William, one of the things that has just come to mind, I've been going back and forth in the chat and asking some questions generally, and some people are responding, and that's very helpful. And one of the thoughts is, you know, if we don't get event ready, what's stopping me from getting event ready, even if I end up not competing, right? So the big bonus is it helps First Canada plan. Typically, I would say 98% of the teams that register do end up competing. So we would be 98% accurate with the venues and the plans for the season ahead. If 50% or 30% of those teams aren't sure, so they don't register, it gets too late, and then it really disrupts the formula or the ability to plan or project properly. So again, as we said to you last year at this time, we very much encourage you to get into the system. As you know, and you've been, those that have been through this before, it's easy to get out, but getting in at the last minute is what makes it tough on everybody. And you could significantly lose an opportunity to be at a home venue local to you. Somebody did ask the question also about points in Waterloo. Waterloo is not considered a back-to-back event. Waterloo is considered two separate events, 1 and 2, which means there were full points awarded for each of those 2.5 days, including banners for 2 sets of banners, 2 sets of full awards, and 2 full sets of points as per any event that you would participate in. Back to you, William.
Great. I'm just responding here to a comment in the chat. With regards to the GTA events, our choice of venues has many factors, and one of the biggest factors is the available schedule. So this year, responding to the short turnaround for Worlds, we were kind of forced into a 5-week schedule. And then when we combine that with the changing schedules of our venues, 3 of our main venues this year were just not available on the weekends that we required. It's quite a complex puzzle to put together all of the schedule. So that's not that we're not planning to be with these venues, it's just that it didn't work out this year. So we very much would be able to look in the future at Durham or York or MTU, which is the former Ryerson University, for future events. It's just that it wasn't working out this year. And the event that we're expecting is not in the GTA, though it's not that far from the GTA. Most of our events, aside from North Bay and Windsor are within an hour of the GTA. So depending on how fast you drive, I guess, and how much traffic there is on the 401. So there is a sort of a summary of our sort of event selection process. And it is good to point out, as has been said in the chat, if you register now, it's not a commitment to compete. It is signaling the intention to compete, and it will help us to support the teams financially, while at the same time anticipating the number of events that we need. So it's important to register if you would like to compete, even if you don't have the funds yet, and then communicate with us clearly. Like, for example, if a team has a need for funds, that's really good to know, because we frequently get inquiries from companies that want to sponsor. And so that helps us to line up the need with available sponsorship dollars. So, oh yeah, there's an interesting thing. The dropping the events had to do with schedule conflicts more than anything, and we continue to maintain great relationships with our previous venues. So there we are. That's the discussion of team support. And in our recent discussions at the CNE, there was a lot of great discussions between mentors and teams about supporting each other. And the age of Zoom has allowed us to spread around the knowledge between teams a little more easily. So one can imagine a single coding mentor from one team might help 3 other teams, while the CAD mentor may be on another team and the team manager could be on a 3rd team, and they may all be supporting each other in a small network of Zoom meetings. Some of the mentoring not needing to be in person. For manufacturing and building, that's a little tougher, but at least we have this available support of Zoom and remote meetings to enable mentors to address several teams at a time in their sessions. So that's something to look forward to. And I think we'll come down up here to the first headquarters blog. I'm just going to draw attention to a few of the announcements on the blog and see if this will bring me to the blog here. Imperfect supply chains. Oops, it just took me away from the blog there. What happened there? Whoops, it has moved or no longer exists. What happened there?
Under construction.
Maybe they're updating it. I found it right here. Let's just go back here. Okay, there it is. It didn't like my link, but the most recent post is about supply chains, and that's a heads up for teams that globally supply chains have been affected by geopolitical convulsions, and sourcing your parts early and being creative in your sourcing of parts is just an inherent part of our competition this year. So if you do really like using certain types of motors in your team, it's a great time to start collecting them now to avoid difficulties later. There's an awards update for the 2023 season. You may want to read more into this about the changes in the names of awards and the awards process. That's from September 12th. And then the 2022 control system article here. Playoff tournament and timeout. There's a whole set of articles that may affect your team in one way or another. So please make ample use of the blog to stay up to date with the announcements in the world of FRC. There we have, a number of things have been happening throughout the summer, so you can keep up to date there.
Yeah. William, can I ask you, while you're there on that website, could you go to programs again for first and go to the FRC calendar?
Sure.
I'd like to.
That's another excellent place to go.
Point out to everyone. If you were to go here, you would see all the deadlines for everything. And it's even easier if you go back to the top there and hit month view on the top left there. And you can see the what's happening on the event selection day. You can see when second event selection is. You can see when kickoff is, all of these things throughout the year. So it's really important to know. And I mean, who knew that kickoff was going to be that late in January this year?
7th.
Right? You know what that means, an extra lengthy Christmas holiday season, everyone. Paul, if you like, you know what, last time it was on the 7th. I went to Disneyland and ran the double marathon. So you could do the same.
Excellent. So there we have our calendar and our blog, two really useful parts of our first Inspires website, and we may make ample use of them. So I believe that's getting us rather close to the end of our sort of discussion agenda for this evening. I'm sure there may be opportunity here for some general questions from the participants. So we will be very happy to hear any additional questions you may have. Great to see people from all around the province this evening. A rather pensive and reflective group, shy with questions or the questions of an answer, one or the other. And very glad to answer any more questions you have by email or by phone or whichever way is convenient. But hopefully we may have done a fair bit to assist with any questions you may have this evening.
If you do know of somebody who's thinking of starting a team, community or school team, please put them in touch with us. We've had very good success with getting the new team growth grant, which used to be called the Argosy grant, which used to be called the rookie grant. So $4,000 US is nothing to sneeze at.
Paul, I was thinking, wouldn't it be a great idea to maybe do a raffle? Any team that starts a new team, a rookie team, enters a team, we put them in for a draw for a super merch package. That's a first merchandise package. Yeah, of extensive value. Anyway, we'll see. Any ideas that y'all have on that, we'd be happy to hear. What would motivate you to partner with FRC to generate more teams? Because we're always looking to spread the opportunity around. Okay.
Well, we really look forward to seeing everyone soon at the off seasons coming up in October and November. Great to see everyone who was at the CNE. That was a really enjoyable event to get to see everyone and to meet some of the teams that didn't get to meet last year. And looking forward to seeing everyone throughout the rest of the year. So I really hope that one of the themes for this year might be this idea of Team Ontario, supporting each other very strongly so that all Ontario teams are moved forward powerfully, and we have a greater chance of performing well as a province on the global stage, as we always have. It just sounds like a very enticing topic, or potential for growth in our province to share the learning between teams and gain even more powerful development and growth and opportunities for all of the students in our province. And really happy to continue to be in touch with each and every one of you, and hope you all have a great evening.